Will Florida State finally get win number 1 of the 2024 season?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Brian Smith, and welcome to Locked On Seminoles, your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk Seminoles football with me. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers will receive $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. The question of the day: will Florida State get win number 1 for the 2024 football season? The Memphis Tigers come to town to visit the Noles in Doak Campbell Stadium. This, of course, is Mike Norvell's old program, the school that he left to come to Tallahassee to be the head coach of the Florida State Seminoles. So there's a little bit of irony there. And it is also a very unique game from a perspective of the matchups. And today we're going to break down a couple of the key stats that Florida State needs to vastly improve on to win this game and to better gauge whether or not Florida State's going to win. I'm curious what Florida State fans think. So please comment on YouTube and anywhere else that you want to comment on X. Tag what I have for my Twitter handle for Locked On Seminoles. It's LO_Seminoles. Make sure that you tag us. I tell you what, this game is pivotal that Florida State wins. If they do not, and again, it's going to come down to some of these stats and some of these categories I'm going to discuss here in a moment, this season could go straight into the dumpster fire. They cannot go 0-3. It is just not part of the equation. But right now, I don't have a lot of faith in them, and I'm kind of curious what you think. So I'm going to give my take on what needs to happen and what I expect to happen in general, and then we'll go from there. Number 1, I think this game will be close pretty much throughout the game. I don't think it'll be one team races out 17-0 or anything like that. Both teams will control the ball, and they might use a little tempo here or there, but they're not going to try and just race up and down the field, breakneck pace. Into the half, it'll be 14-10, one way or the other, something of that nature. And it'll go into the fourth quarter. There'll be 2 main categories that I look at that'll basically determine the game. One is not going to surprise anybody. It's the one for every game, and that's turnovers. Put that aside. If you didn't already know that turnovers were a major factor, then you probably haven't watched football very long. As it goes, though, DJ, and it's why I got it on for those of you on YouTube up on the side screen here, does DJ play better? They need everybody around him to make that work. But at the end of the day, he's got to be more accurate and willing to take shots down the field. So my second category is Florida State's passing attack. Is it more of a threat? Do the safeties for Memphis feel like, you know what, if we keep diving down in the box like we are, we're going to get smoked? Florida State has been terrible with its deep passing game from a traditional sense. And DJ's a traditional quarterback. Like, he's a pocket guy. If they cannot drop back and just complete passes down the field where the ball travels 10, 15, 20 yards in the air before meeting the receiver, they are going to be in trouble. I am steadfast in that. I talked about it a lot. And quite honestly, anybody that's covered the Noles, any podcast that I've seen, ESPN, Fox, doesn't matter which network, there's discussion about that in some way, shape, or form. Florida State must be able to control their passing game down the field. Again, I know there's a lot of things that go into that because offensive football is a very, very difficult elixir to define in one sentence, but you still have to find a way to get the ball down the field. Of course, you got to run it better. They average, it's so bad, 2.53 yards per carry when you combine the Boston College game with the Georgia Tech game. That is just absolutely abysmal football. So the line's got to play better. Play calling's got to be better. And I've said it a couple of times in the past week. I literally think, and I'm steadfast in this too, they got to create a few more plays, like literally from scratch or something they haven't shown yet, that makes the Florida State offensive players feel confident, inserted into the playbook for this week or the game sheet, however you want to say it. Because right now you can tell that the body language for Florida State's offense is terrible. They have to feel more confident. They got to have some wild plays that they believe in. They're going to work. And of course, you need to execute them too. I'm all in favor of execution. That's for certain. Lastly, before I go into a buy or sell section on what you think, what I think about over-unders for stats, etc., one other key part of this, the first quarter. Florida State cannot afford to get behind in this game. Yeah, I'm like, if you're down 7-0, that's one thing. Like Memphis gets the kickoff and they score. First drive, a lot of teams scored with their scripted plays. It's super complicated to screw it up because you practice the same thing over all week. You're probably going to move the ball. 3 and out on the first drive, like Florida State has done, is a horrific sign. But Memphis is probably going to score on their first drive in some capacity. That's not a big deal. But if they get down like 2 scores, that's a whole nother animal. And I don't think they will. I think it'll be close because I expect Florida State's offense to be better. I really do. But I don't know if they're going to slow down Memphis. That's still a question that I'm really unsure of. And again, I'm curious what Memphis fans think, what Florida State fans think, just people in general checking out this podcast. Comment and give me a why, not just it's going to happen this way. Why? I'm curious as to your thoughts. So without further ado, let's start in. And we're going to start right at the top with DJ. I made it clear. The key here is DJ must be able to consistently throw the ball down the field. That doesn't mean 80 yards in the air, any crazy numbers like that. I'm talking about 10 to 20-yard passes, middle of the field too, to be even more specific. Florida State has been horrific at throwing the ball in the middle of the field on passing downs. I don't know what it is, but they've really struggled. So I'm going to just throw out the question that I'm going to pull up and share screen for those of you that are on YouTube. Pro Football Focus for DJ. Then I'll do it for Seth Henigan. And again, here in a little bit, he's the quarterback for Memphis. Just their stats, what they've done so far this year, some of the statistics, and I'll read off the categories for you. But question 1, does DJ throw for over 270 yards? For full disclosure, DJ threw for like 272 in the prior game against Boston College, but he was under 50%. So this is just a snippet, but I'm just curious for a baseline. Do you think he will throw for more than 270 yards against Memphis? Now, with that being stated, I also am curious what you think about some of these stats. This is DJ U. And quite honestly, this is not the most difficult stat line to understand here. He's struggling with accuracy. If you look at completion percentage, 48.8 against Boston College. Yeah, that's not going to get it done. Threw for 272. He was 21 of 43. Of course, they got behind. They're not able to use play action the way they would really like. The abysmal 6.3 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Somehow he still got an offensive grade of 72.6. That makes no sense to me. I don't see how that's not in the 50s or low 60s, but whatever. Passing grade 72.8. Again, I don't understand that. Big time throws, he made 3. He had a few really good down the field. That's bizarre because he struggled with so many of these other throws. And then if you look at his opportunities to throw the football, he only had one what they call a turnover-worthy play against Boston College, and it was picked. So if you look at the opportunities that he had, though, there is one other thing that's really, really important. I think the number's probably even higher if I went back through the whole game. PFF has 5 drops in the Boston College game by Florida State tight ends, receivers, and running backs. 5. At most, you want like 1 in a game. 5. I mean, like I said earlier, you have to help him out. So that's why I think the 270 is not an easy thing to really look at. Because you can just say, well, sure, he's going to pass for a 270. It's a Florida State quarterback. They've got skill players, etc. Are they going to catch the ball? So I think that number is a little bit funky to talk about because there's no guarantee. I think that number is pretty fair, and I would put it at even money one way or the other. I don't know what, I'm sure FanDuel and some other places have numbers like that, but I put it at 270. I'm going to say slightly over from me, but it's not a lock. And I honestly don't think that anybody needs to be surprised if it's a little lower, and it's probably better if it is, but only if they play with a lead most of the game and they can dictate running and passing. That's not an easy thing to do. So we'll see how that goes. Coming up next, we're going to get back into the stats, talk a little more DJ, a little more offense, especially the physicality. Will the Noles be a physical football team? We're going to talk more about that when we come back next on Locked On Seminoles. Have you tried out Factor meals? Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to menu and chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. No matter how busy you are, you'll always have time for nutritious, great tasting meals. Make your day delicious. Breakfast, dessert, stay fueled with anything that you want with nutritious options. Treat yourself even to restaurant quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 different menu preferences to help you manage your calories. Head over to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box for the next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Also, this show is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through the 22nd of September, FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then you will have a YouTube TV base plan. You'll be able to watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app to use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all Sunday, September 15th, pregame moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting Thursday, today. View your account page now and learn more about your boost. So DJU, the first question, over under 270. We're going to kind of continue on with some of the DJU stuff and the offensive stuff, but this one is one that I find a little bit interesting, and it's why I brought up the drops. It'll also impact how many yards he gets, but what completion percentage do you think? Again, he was 48.8 in the last game, but Pro Football Focus had him throwing to receivers and tight ends and running backs that combined for 5 drops. That's not very helpful. It changes down a distance. It changes the play call. It changes what defense there is. It changes everything. Cannot have drops. So I guess the secondary question is, how many drops will Florida State have? They had 5 by PFF this last time they played. Completely unacceptable. So we need to figure that out. I'm going to say he's going to hit 60%, but I also think it'll be about right on the dot. Maybe slightly over. He'll hit like 21 out of 31, something like that, if he's having a great day. But I think it's more likely that it's 19 out of 31, something like that, and they're going to take a few deeper shots. I just expect them to have a better day. Just the odds of it. Like, are they really going to have games back-to-back with 5 drops? If they do, they're going to lose to Memphis. Cannot have that happen again. It puts you behind the chains. It destroys morale, all those things. But he's also got to be more accurate. Let's not kid ourselves. He hasn't exactly been Tom Brady or Joe Montana out there. He needs to be consistent with his throwing motion, his footwork, but he's a 5th-year senior, so I'm not sure that's going to happen. What do you say? Over under DJU 60% against Memphis. Question 3. This is the big one for me. All that leads to this. I've said it earlier this week on Locked On Seminoles. I say it again. The team that gets the 30 points is going to be the team that wins. I don't necessarily think both will. I think this will be a game where it kind of comes down to the end. So every little play matters, every little yard. This could be the final drive of the game kind of deal. I think both teams have the firepower physically, not that Florida State's playing like it as of late, to score 40 in a game, but they got to put things together. Henigan, and I'll get into him in a minute, I'm very confident that they have a great chance to get to there. I don't know if they'll be the first one there, though. Part of that's defense, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. So yes or no, Florida State scores 30 or more points against the Memphis Tigers. So run game would have to be better. You average 2.53 yards a carry first 2 games. Do the receivers, tight ends, and running backs catch the ball better? Is the offensive line better in protection? Part of that Byers. Is he able to go? Is he really, truly healthy if he does play? There's so many little factors with that. Yeah, having your right tackle banged up is not ideal. Robert Scott's not a very good player anymore, in my opinion. I know other people complained about him at right tackle. If he has to play, he has to play. You got Jalen Early there. They got problems on the offensive line. There's a lot of questions. So right now, I think the answer for me would be no, because I'm really weary about the offensive line and the pass catchers in general. You got to prove it to me. So we'll see. But that's the big question. Can you get to 30 or more? Florida State could win if they don't get 30, but it'll be really hard. They'd need a pick six, a fumble, scoop and score, something like that to go against Memphis, kind of like the Clemson game did last year to win, but we'll see. Number 4, will Florida State run for over 100 yards? Again, they only averaged 2.53 yards a carry. Do you really think they're going to? Memphis has got a pretty good defense for a G5 program, but I'm not sure Florida State is committed to the run because of what they've shown in practice. I'm guessing here. There's no way for me to know. It's not like I'm going to all their practices and getting to see literally every single rep. But they didn't even try to run the ball against Boston College. First downs, they didn't run the ball at all in the first half. Literally. So what does that say about the mentality of the staff in their confidence level that the guys up front can create opportunities? Now, I know part of it is the opposing team is diving into the box, but that's also because your receivers aren't getting anything done down the field. Your tight ends are. Morlock's got 1 catch for 12 yards in 2 games. No other tight end has a catch. The running backs have done pretty decent in the pass game, but you can't feature that as your number one. Your receivers have to create separation down the field. There's no way around it. So if those things aren't happening, you're going to see those safeties in the box. You still got to run for better than 2.5 yards carry, by the way. But they're going to be in the box, and you got to be able to run even though the odds aren't there. In other words, break tackles, make guys miss, make it happen, do it anyway. If Florida State completely shies away from running the football on first down, you should put a big X next to the win column. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. They must be able to run the ball on first down, or the stuff I talked about with DJ U will go in the toilet. He might throw for over 270, but at 50% and with at least 1 turnover, and then just be completely inconsistent. You can't be in 3rd and 7 all day. Does not work. Number 5, will Memphis score 30? If you're struggling with the run game, the chances are Memphis going 30, and that's why I put it in this order, goes up. They've got to be able to run the ball. It sets up DJ, makes you more balanced, keeps your offense on the field, and keeps the Memphis offense, specifically here, Seth Henigan, standing next to their head coach, twiddling his thumbs. You're not going to completely shut down Seth Henigan. You're not. He's a really good football player. I'll talk about him in a second. Will Memphis score 30? To help you answer that, if you want to wait a second, I'm going to pull up Seth's stats, Pro Football Focus, just like I did with DJ. For those of you that are curious about it, he is a really talented guy, senior quarterback, threw for over 3,800 yards last year. He's a young man that, quite honestly, it's a great story because for some reason he got a little bit overlooked. I'm not sure what it was. He's from the Dallas area, played at one of the major programs, but hey, whatever. He ends up at Memphis. He's had opportunities to transfer because a lot of teams thrown money at him, and he stayed. Good for him. So this year, his combined stats, he's 42 to 60, 70%, 468 yards, 7.8 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He checks down a lot, but he doesn't force the ball. Teams play a lot of off coverage, especially the last game they played against Troy. First game against North Alabama, they just couldn't match up. He averaged 10.3 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns. Just a talent mismatch there. He had 5 big-time throws, meaning put him into a tight window. He didn't take near as many chances against Troy. They played a little more off. Didn't give him as many easy access throws in some circumstances, but he still hit 2/3 of his passes. He only had 160 yards, though. They did a good job of tackling. I think that might be the path against him. It's not really Florida State's style to do this, but you're not going to just play man coverage against him and give him easy access throws. He's too smart. You have to mix coverage against a senior quarterback that's going to play at the NFL level. I'm curious to see what Florida State does and hear the analysis after the game, because Florida State is going up against a team that, quite honestly, just my opinion, they quite honestly have a lot of things going on their defense that you're concerned about. Stopping the run. Are they going to be physical? We'll talk a little more about that in a moment. But the defensive coverage is in the back end. This will be the first game that we can see how good they are. The first 2 teams only threw 16 and then 16 passes again because they ran the ball so well. They didn't have to. Henigan's going to chuck it around. He's thrown 30 passes in each of his first 2 games. It's very consistent. A lot of short passes. They'll use motions and shifts. It is not a friendly offense to scheme against because it is a big playbook for them. So it's a challenge for Florida State. If you want to man up and put that extra guy in the box to make Henigan the guy that beats you, he'll be glad to do it, but you can't let him run. And they got a couple good running backs too. So with that, Florida State is in a unique situation with their secondary. I don't know if Memphis scores more or less than 30, but it'll depend on how well the secondary does. So you can possibly man up. I'm a little iffy on that one and take away Seth Henigan's ability to get those easy access throws, even though Troy did that last week, take away the deep ball. And, they'd squat on some routes here and there. They tackled well. He still found a way to get him a victory pretty easily. He just doesn't turn the ball over. So that's something to think about. So quarterback yardage for Seth, over under 270. What do you think? I think there's a good chance that he will be under. If I had to wager, I would say less because I think Florida State will mix up their coverages and not be quite as aggressive. That's my guess. This is my weakest answer out of this whole list. Curious what you all think, but Florida State likes to be aggressive with their DBs. Historically, with this staff, what they've done, etc., they like to come after people. But he's a senior quarterback. I think they'll mix it up because he can get over the top on you. We'll see how that goes. Coming up next, we're going to finish up with this on whether or not Florida State could beat Memphis. It's an interesting matchup with a lot of different things going on with the offense and defense for both teams because these two squads have played games completely different before this weekend. So we're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Seminoles. When you're hiring for a small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right. Down to the nitty gritty here on a few other key questions for the Florida State versus Memphis matchup. This is the kind of fun stuff that I like to talk about down the road. You would like to see Florida State's pass rush get going. Well, how about this week? If you want to slow down Henigan and keep him under 270, it's more pressure. I'm just betting on the odds in general, just this active fate. I think Florida State's four-man rush will be better this week against Memphis. How many sacks do you think? More specifically, how many sacks do you think it's really going to hurt them? Like not at the end of the half or something like that. Are there going to be critical places? Florida State going to be clutch? That's another way to say it. But the over-under total I have is 3. So will they get at least 3? I think so. If they can get to 4, and especially if it's not like garbage sacks, 3rd and 18 from their own 20, it's not really a scoring threat. It's still nice, but Florida State needs that big play too. They do. They need that big play. Memphis gets down to the 15. It's 3rd and 4. He rolls out, and a guy just crushes him, blindsides him, picks it up, scoop, and score. Florida State needs that game-changing kind of play. Kind of like DeLoach did last year when he scooped and scored against Cade Klubnik from Clemson that changed that game around. That place needs some kind of energy. It'd be really great if that was on the first drive of the game. Something where there's just enormous positivity. Overall, though, again, will they get him to the ground at least 3 times? Next, I know this is kind of a fun question in general, but as the game goes on, I think Florida State's going to try to set this up, and I mentioned it earlier. They're going to have to come up with some new plays. There's film out on the first 2 games. There's not much for teams to be worried about. Florida State needs to put in a couple of new plays, something they haven't shown one time through the first 2 games. Get a bomb, not just a go ball. Anybody can run a go ball. Something that changes the schematics, that creates separation without the player doing anything besides running. I'm flat out putting it on the coaches here. To that, does DJ complete a traditional bomb? Drop back, wait for the guy to clear, throw it, catch it, big play. Florida State is famous for this. It's one of the reasons I watched Florida State football growing up. They stink at it right now. They are awful at it right now. Does DJ complete a traditional bomb? Now, they had the flea flicker play last week that was like 29 yards or something. That was pretty cool. It was really well designed. That was great. No doubt. Can they hit a bomb on a basic post, a seam route, a pattern that is like a deep over, 25 yards down the field when he catches the ball, something like that? I don't know exactly what it has to be. You can call it whatever. But if Florida State can't force the safeties back again, I'm not sure they have a chance to win this football game. Next, overall, how much better do you think the receivers will play? In other words, last week they were at best a C, and I'm being very kind. I don't even think they would rate that. I'd probably go D. The unit as a whole didn't have all the drops, but they're not getting separation. They're a below average unit. Allegedly, Hakeem Williams is going to play. I don't know how much that'll impact it. Brown, Benson, everybody has to step up. Kentron's had a couple of nice moments. He had back-to-back big plays. Maybe he's the guy. I don't care. But as a unit, somebody else besides Kentron's got to step up so teams aren't focusing on one guy and double covering that player. Do you think Florida State's receivers play better this week? In other words, are they acceptable? Yes or no? I think it's more than buy or sell. But I'm not sold on that. And it gives me a lot of concern because if that's the case, here come those safeties again down in the box. That's what I would do if I was Memphis coordinator. If the receivers aren't getting separation, especially against safeties for Memphis, like deeper routes, that's a problem. That'll be something to monitor and listen to during the game because if Florida State can't do that, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. Number 10, finally, do you think Florida State beats Memphis? I'm going to give my own prediction tomorrow on the Friday show. My full in-depth, I haven't come up with a final score yet. I've got to change around on a couple of things. I had a score earlier, but I'm thinking about changing it a little bit based on some more analysis I did. But do you think Florida State beats Memphis? It's an interesting question right now because I don't think anybody knows, no matter how much they study Florida State or how long they've been a Florida State fan, what they can expect out of this team. We just haven't seen what we thought we were going to coming into the season. I picked them to go 11-1. I might have been the furthest from correct of anybody on the internet. It's somebody that analyzes Florida State and covers the team. So it's a pretty hard question. With that, thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping and talk some Noles football with me. It's been a lot of fun again today. Look forward to having you back. And make sure you check out my guys at Locked On ACC and Locked On College Football afterwards. They're a lot of fun to check out too. And right now, especially in the ACC, it is a topsy-turvy league. Florida State has a chance to get back on its feet this weekend against Memphis. We will talk about prediction on Friday. I will see you tomorrow.